All right, let's do some Mathity-Math. It says here, find the zeros of the quadratic by completing the square. Okay, so we're going to use a specific method here called completing the square. When we do completing the square, we are actually essentially completing the square to make a perfect square quadratic. And by making a perfect square quadratic, it allows us to do certain things to solve quickly. Okay, so our goal here is to generate a perfect square quadratic. Okay, and we do that by inserting a value right here. And that value that we need to insert is actually our b value divided by 2 and then squared. Okay, that's our b value divided by 2 squared. Now that's going to go right here. But that can't actually go right there. Why? Well, because there's a 17 here. So step one, what we need to do here is move this 17 by subtracting from both sides. So I'm going to rewrite this x squared plus 20x is negative 17. And here I'm leaving space for that piece. Now, to find that b value, your quadratic does need to be in standard form, which it was here, ax squared plus bx plus c. So my b value is 20. So what I'm going to stick in on each side is this right here, 20 divided by 2 squared. Okay, well, what's 20 divided by 2? Well, that's 10, and what's 10 squared? That's 100. So, in essence, I'm just adding 100 to both sides. So I'm going to add 100 here, and I'm going to add 100 here. And just to clarify this in case I went too fast, 20 divided by 2 is 10, and that's squared, and 10 squared is 100. That's where I got it from. Okay, so this right here, you do have to know this if you ever want to complete the square. That's the key to putting in this piece that builds a perfect square quadratic. Okay, well, we'll go from here in a second. So before we move on, though, it is important, I think, that we rewrite this because we have some math over here we need to do, and we don't want to forget this and then move on and make a mistake later. So what we have now is x squared plus 20x plus 100 equals, and so negative 17 plus 100, that is 83. Okay, all right. So when we look at this, we did all of this work up here and all this over here to make this situation. And this situation we made is called a perfect square quadratic. And when you have a perfect square quadratic, it just lets you quickly rewrite this part in a factored state. So it's going to be like this. Your a value is a perfect square. Your a value is a perfect square because the square root of x squared is just x. So that lets me quickly make that jump. Okay, you do bring down your first symbol. It might be negative, and that's okay. You never use this one. This one's always positive because you're over here squaring, so it would always end up positive, so that's not what we're going to use. But positive 100 is also a perfect square because 10 times 10 is 100, so we take the 10. And then we square it. And so this is a perfect square quadratic. And if you don't believe me, if you wrote x plus 10 times x plus 10 and then FOILed it, you would actually get right back to where you started. So this just lets us factor it super quick. You just take the perfect square value of your a term, shoop. Same thing with your c term, shoop, and you square it, right? Because x times x is x squared, and 10 times 10 is 100. Okay? And if you FOILed it, that b value would come back out. You can just trust me. And then we rewrite the 83. You know, I said you should just trust me, but I feel like I could just show you guys real quick. Okay, so x plus 10 squared is the same as saying x plus 10 times x plus 10, right? X plus 10 squared, x plus 10 times x plus 10. Okay, if you FOILed this, you get x squared plus 10x, gosh, I keep forgetting the 1, plus 10x plus 100. If you add that together, you get x squared plus 20x plus 100. See, it goes right back to where you were. So that's the power of this perfect square quadratic. It can let you very quickly just factor it down just like that. Oh, I drew a line. Oops. Okay. So moving on. Okay, we want to get x all by itself. We want to find those zeros. We want to find those solutions. But I can't get to this x yet because this whole thing's being squared. Well, what's the opposite of squaring? We use the square root. So if I square root both sides, I'll be left with x plus 10 is plus or minus the square root of 83. Okay, I actually almost already have my x all by itself. I would just say subtract 10 from both sides, and now I have x is plus or minus the square root of 83 minus 10. And that actually is your two solutions right there. That's your two solutions. It's positive root 83 minus 10, and it's negative root 83 minus 10. Now, in all honesty, this really doesn't help us visualize where our parabola is crossing the x-axis. So it is not a terrible step to bust out your handy-dandy calculator. And let's see here. I want to just find the square root of 83. Okay, so I just say square root of 83. And it tells me it's 9.11, so I can just 0.4335. So now I'll just round it to 9.11. So looking at this, I know that my two x values are x is 9.11 minus 10, and my x value is negative 9.11 minus 10. And let's just figure those out. Okay? So I can just say minus 10. Ta-da! So I'm going to get negative 0.895. I'll just round that to a negative 0.89. Just want to be careful to make a rounding error. Okay, and then using the same idea, if I do a negative root 83, I'll just get my answer. See how now it's a negative? That's my negative. Oh, you guys see that? Sorry. Here's my negative 9.11, and I'll just subtract 10. And there we have negative 19.1. And those are my two x-intercepts right here. Okay? So that's how we can use the quadratic formula. I'm talking quadratic formula. This is how we can use completing the square to find our two solutions. The big thing to remember is that we're building perfect square quadratics, so we can make that jump right there. Okay? That's the big move. Okay, as always, please subscribe if you want to be notified when I make more practice videos just for you. And if you have any questions or comments, or you want to tell me how lovely my handwriting is, please just leave a comment below and I'll do my best to respond quickly. Thank you.